What's up, guys? You're watching Anxiety Land, a show about how I overcame anxiety. When you talk to people about anxiety, they act like it's this irreversible condition that you can't get over. Like, people are like, well, you know, just my anxiety. It's like, yeah, but you drink like 4 Red Bulls a day. The crazy part about anxiety is, I used to be the craziest person that I know, but it seems like the whole modern world has just gotten really crazy lately. People are fueling themselves from coffee shops, we're constantly on our phones, and we're always trying to get somewhere. It almost seems like a form of mass psychosis to where everyone is crazy, myself included. By the way, I don't want to make it sound like I'm the one who's like not crazy. Like, it almost seems everybody's crazy, except for me. I want to let you guys know that you can trust me. It's just me with this backdrop right here, looking like a cult leader. I've actually got a plate of acid that I'm going to give all of you guys. So for me, I found out I had anxiety whenever I was a little kid. I remember my mom told me that I had a mental illness, which is a really great way to be introduced to the fact that you have anxiety, especially in the South. Because in the South, growing up in like the early 2000s, if you had a mental illness, you were just retarded. Like, people were just like, oh, that guy has ADD. It's like, poor soul. I actually went on a wild goose chase probably about 12 years ago to get over my anxiety. And the first thing that you discover whenever you're trying to get over anxiety is people want to medicate you. Like, doctors, especially in Western medicine, will be like, here's some pill cereal. What? It's like pill cereal. It's like, what do I do with that? It's a cereal bowl full of pills, and we just want you to take it every single morning. And they basically make you comatose, like Jack Nicholson at the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Then there's the other way of getting over anxiety, to where you literally are dealing with crazy chiropractors. Now, I've met chiropractors who are actually good, but then there's also chiropractors that touch your foot, and they're like, oh, your great-grandmother was cursed. And it's like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, hang on, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna cleanse out your DNA. You're like, is this scientific? And it's like, yeah, it's quantum physics. You're like, I'm pretty sure that's not quantum physics. And they're like, $400. So you kind of start to feel a little hopeless about how you actually do get over anxiety. So I struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder, social anxiety, generalized anxiety, and just kind of a cocktail of all of those things at one time. Most people I know just accept their anxiety and they go through their life to the best of their ability. But the problem is like, when you don't actually assess what's causing you anxiety, you just get crazier and crazier and crazier, and everything starts to scare you. Like, it's a bird, it's a bird's nest, it's clouds. And you're just kind of in this perpetual fight or flight mode. So for me, with anxiety, I became quote unquote obsessed with getting over it. Like, I was really bad. I ended up in emergency rooms several times because I thought I was dying, and I was screaming at nurses, and it turns out that there was nothing wrong with me. There was even one point where they tried to put me on an antipsychotic. But what's crazy, I would get so manic that I would have crazy business ideas. Like, yeah, as soon as I blow up as a comedian, I'm gonna own a helicopter business. And people would be like, you're bipolar. I was misdiagnosed with several mental illnesses because I couldn't get to the root of my anxiety, because when you leave something unchecked, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So for me, I went on this long path of trying to figure out what the solution was. I tried cognitive behavioral therapy, I did self-hypnosis, I did neuro-linguistic programming, I tried to become a pickup artist for a little bit, I went through sales training, I did 12-step programs, I went to shaman healers. I literally did everything. Like, if you looked at my bookshelf in my apartment, you'd be like, this guy's a serial killer. He has a lot of self-help books, you know? His teeth are too white, and he reads too much Tony Robbins. I'm pretty sure he has skeletons buried underneath his floorboards, which I do, but I still can help you. I would do all kinds of things. I'd come home from work and I would shout affirmations in the mirror, like, I'm enough, 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 I'm enough! And the neighbors would be like, yeah, we know. Can you at least let us go to bed? It's 10:30 at night. There was a point where I was listening to Tony Robbins so much, I would just be driving in the car with road rage while blaring Tony Robbins. And I'm a very confrontational person when I'm in traffic, because there's something about being in your car that makes you just rage on people, because you're driving a tiny living room down the freeway and other people are also driving a tiny living room down the freeway, and when their house gets too close to your house, there's something about you that just gets really primal. But when I would yell at people, they would hear me blaring Tony Robbins, so it was just creepy. Nothing more terrifying than someone tailgating you in traffic with crazy eyes, but you hear Joel Osteen's voice just blaring off the speaker like, I am who God says I am. Long story short, I've done 20 different types of therapy, probably more. I've read over 200 books on self-development and therapy, all the way from Carl Jung, Freud type stuff, to pop psychology, to just self-help with really white smiles. It's like, I can make your life work. I did everything. So these days, I kind of just lean towards the idea that some folks are just born with a propensity towards anxiety. Because the truth of the matter is I grew up pretty good. My parents loved each other. That's my mom right there, a sweet Southern belle. And I've done so many characters based on her archetype. But somewhere around the age of 5, obsessive compulsive disorder behavior started to show up. Now, growing up, I actually had obsessive compulsive disorder, and I remember having that for as long as I've been alive. I've had OCD. If you don't know what OCD is, Wikipedia, because it's such a credible source. I know that everybody's like, Wikipedia is not credible. This is a middle finger to all of my high school and college teachers and professors who were like, Matt, Wikipedia is not credible. Then how do you explain this, Mrs. Dunaway? I'm using it on a YouTube video. What if she was actually watching this? So Wikipedia defines it as obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD for short, is a mental and behavioral disorder in which Jewel has intrusive thoughts, an obsession, and feels the need to perform certain routines, compulsions repeatedly to relieve the distress caused by the obsession to the extent where it impairs general function. So in layman's terms, the way I would describe it as, you get an intrusive thought that's like, do this thing, and if you don't do that thing, it gives you a lot of anxiety. Now, most people with OCD aren't like, this thought, I need to peel off your skin and it won't leave me alone until I do it. It's not like that. Most people, it's just like, wash your hands, do this, do that, you know? But I do want to peel off people's skin. I did some weird things because of OCD. When I was a little kid, started pissing all over the floor. Yes, I knew it was wrong. No, I don't know why I did it. And yes, my dad was upset with me.
Smells like cat came up here and took a piss. Boy, we're gonna get an analysis done on whether this is human piss or cat piss.
And I didn't stop peeing on stuff until I became obsessed with the idea of germs. And I became a complete and total germaphobe whenever I was a kid. I would wash my hands so much that they would literally look like an 87-year-old man's hands. Like, I had Crypt Keeper hands. And at night, my dad would fill up the socks with lotion and he would put them over my hands because my hands were just so chapped. Anxiety has this really nasty habit of making you feel like you're in a straitjacket. Like you are in judgment from the world, you're in judgment from your thoughts, you're in judgment from fear, you have a lot of anxiety. And so what happens is when you don't deal with anxiety, you want to break out. And I think my way of breaking out as a 5-year-old with a bowl cut and buck teeth was peeing on my family's furniture, as crazy as that sounds. And I loved to pee on that furniture. I loved it. It meant a lot to me. It still means a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. I don't do it anymore. But here's the thing that I've actually realized, okay? If you are in the grip of that mental illness, whatever you love, you will eventually strangle. It's like grabbing a flower and then you just make it wilt in your hand because it's so important to you. So for instance, if I wanted to have good health, I will wash my hands over and over and over again to where you literally destroy your hands. When I was a kid, I had a VHS collection. I was obsessed with movies, but I was so scared of my movie cases getting damaged, so I would wrap the entire movie case in Scotch tape. If you are obsessive compulsive disorder and you're in a relationship and the person you're in a relationship with becomes the object of your obsession, you will destroy the relationship because you will squeeze it and hold it so tight that you'll ultimately destroy what you care about. Which is why it's so paramount to actually not giving into that thing and realizing that it's just the worst thing that you can actually be listening to. The other one that I struggled with was generalized anxiety. Now, generalized anxiety just means you're in perpetual fight or flight, and this one ran in my family. My grandma had the worst anxiety I'd ever seen. She had such bad anxiety that she was creative with it. It was like she had a screenwriter in her head just making up awful scripts of things that could happen. Like, I'd be like, hey, Granny, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna ride my bike, okay? She'd be like, okay, just make sure you don't wear jeans, because if your jeans get stuck in the bike chain, it could tear your legs off and then you won't be able to go up the stairs anymore. It's like, oh, wow. It was like my grandma actually wrote the Saw movies. No, I'm kidding. She didn't actually write the Saw movies, but I'm sure the guy who actually wrote the Saw movies did have generalized anxiety disorder. He was like, what would it be like if a key was stuck in my eye and I had to dig it out? Write that down.